All right, you guys ready for week number 7?
Oh, wow.
Wow. Unbelievable.
Isn't that hard to believe? Like,
Yeah.
we started this earlier than we are going to just because of the whole quarantine thing, and we've already been through 7 weeks
7 weeks.
sitting together. So we're glad that you guys have stuck with it. Those that you've been here the whole time, and those that are newer, we're glad you're here. And we've got a really fun and great evening planned for you tonight. Really excited, and we're gonna basically do our normal thing. We open up in prayer, just chat a little bit, and Jim is doing our devotional tonight. Excited to hear what he has to share with us, and then we will go through and we'll do go through the nature and God's creation photos that you guys submitted, and a bunch of terrific pictures tonight. We'll give kind of a little quick critique of them, and then Sasha's coming on, and he's sitting right up there on your screen if you see him, and we'll introduce him, and he's got a lot of great stuff to share with us tonight. And then we'll go over kind of what our next challenge is for this week, and then we'll break for another week. Sound like a plan? Sound good?
Sounds good.
Everybody happy, excited?
Yep. Yes.
Awesome. All right, well, let's go ahead and open up in prayer, and then we'll jump in. So, Lord Jesus, thank you so much for another great night. Really hard to believe that we've been together for 7 weeks already doing this, but we just we've been so blessed by everything that you provided within this group and the people that are here. And we just ask that you would bless each and every one of the attendees tonight. Bless their lives, their businesses, financially, spiritually, Lord. We just thank you for everything that you've done during this time, and are expecting great things to come. Lord Jesus, you provide exactly what we need in your timing, and we're just thankful for that. You're a good God, and we love you so much. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. All right. So, Jim, I see you're on. You're on. I can't hear you, though.
Hear me.
Now we can
hear me.
There.
Hear you now.
Hear you now.
All right, let's get rolling. Yeah, so last week I posted a verse for us all to read and to think about. And it came out of Hebrews chapter 10, and it was 19 through, I don't remember, but the key part of the verse is 23 through 25, and I'll read it for us. It's, "Let us hold unswervingly to the hope we profess, for he who promised is faithful. And let us consider how we may spur one another on toward love and good deeds, not giving up meeting together as some are in the habit of doing, but encouraging one another." So one of the questions I posted for the group was, think of a person that has encouraged you in your faith walk, and reach out and tell them about it. Have an opportunity to talk to them about how it's impacted you. So I'm curious in the group if people had a chance to do that, and how people may have reacted to your reaching out and calling or texting or however you did it. Does anybody like to share about what that experience was like? Well, I can tell you from my own personal experience, there's 2 people in my life that I really have shaped me in my Christian walk. One I messaged, the other one I phone called. And they've always kind of known they were mentoring me, but I don't think they realized the impact that they had on me over the years. And I think it was really refreshing for them to hear that. And conversely, so here we are thinking about people that have encouraged us during our Christian walk. But the other part of it is the biblical view of discipleship is really twofold. It's, we look to our pastors and people who are mature Christians to disciple us. But the biblical model for discipleship is also to turn around and look behind us and find someone that's 2 steps behind us in their Christian walks and to encourage them. And that's what this passage really says, is that we should be not only looking for encouragement, but also providing encouragement. So I'm curious, within the group, if anybody's had a chance to reach out to somebody that's maybe not as far along in their faith walk, to provide some encouragement this week, and what that experience might have been like. If anybody'd like to share something about that.
We had a young person stop by our house to check on us and see how we were doing this last week. And in turn, she is fairly new Christian. Well, she's been a Christian all the time, but she's kind of in a new phase of her life, I guess you would say. And it was kind of exciting to be able to speak into her life. And both Dave and I think, encouraged her a lot to push forward. She can be very legalistic, and we tried to just kind of put her at ease a little bit. And that's that verse in Hebrews that you read about let us. It isn't you do it, it isn't me do it, but is let us do those things and encourage each other together. And that's kind of what I got out of it.
Awesome. Oh, thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah, that really is the biblical model, is meeting together as we're doing tonight. This is a great example of doing that. And that not only looking ahead for our spiritual mature leaders and our pastors, they have a role in that, but also to turn behind us and to find people that are, not as far along on their Christian walk. And it really doesn't matter where you are. A lot of us feel like, I don't have the authority, the experience, and I'm not well read in the Bible. That we all have something to share. We have shared experience and shared interests, and we can use those to help people in their faith walks. And sometimes the shared experiences, might be, someone that's experienced cancer or divorce or a loss of a job. Or it could be something that we share an experience. We might share the same love for the same football team. Those are all gateways and opportunities to provide, a connection for our encouragement for others in our faith walk. So what I'd really like to do is I know we have an ambitious schedule tonight, and I want to make sure we have plenty of time to get through all the things we need to do. But I thought I would just take a moment and we'll just do a quick prayer, all of us together, thinking about Hebrews, especially the 23 through 25 verse. So if you'll just pray with me, we're going to just take a half a minute and just pray about this and just say, Lord Jesus, thank you. You are the ultimate encourager. You have been faithful as your word has promised, and we stand on that. That's what grounds us. You are the rock. But we also have a role and responsibility to encourage others. And so right now, all of us, take a moment, think of somebody that you can thank for helping you on your Christian walk. And part B, let's look behind us also and think of somebody in our circle of friends or family that we can encourage. So let's just take a half a minute, Lord, and each of us just, who we need to reach out to through the Holy Spirit. Lay those people before us that we might be encouraged and to encourage others. Thank you, Lord. Let's take this half a minute together. Thank you, Lord. Thank you. So many people have just popped into my mind. There's no lack of people that we can put into our prayer circle. And we're thankful for your word. It reminds us of what it means to be a Christian and be in a Christian community. So with that, I would just like to end by saying, Steve and Mark, you guys have been awesome in encouraging us as a group. And I'd like to thank both of you personally for starting this. I look forward to coming here on Monday nights. It's one of the highlights of my week. I'm in lots of different Zoom things, but this is one of my favorites. And I really think that you are speaking to us in a very impactful way. And it's just really refreshing to come here and to be able to share. And I think I speak for most of us here tonight, and just wanted to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. You guys are really God honoring, and what you're doing has definitely been blessed by the Holy Spirit. So thank you, Mark and Steve.
Well, thank you, Jim. That definitely made my day. See, I learned that last week on how to take that compliment. So, but really, thank you, Jim. That was very much appreciated. You know, it's one of the things that you said it's your favorite time of your week. Mark and I were just actually saying that today on a call together, that this call in particular with all of you that are here means a lot to us, and it really is a highlight of our week. And we sincerely, when we say we appreciate every one of you joining us every week, we really do, really do. So thank you so much. We appreciate it. Thank you for the encouraging words, for your devotion, Jim.
Yeah.
Great stuff. You know, I think we always need to remember the people in our lives that help us get to where we are, and the people that we can help bring along with us as well. So definitely good words.
Yep. I love the fact that you chose these verses tonight, because I've been talking with some of the men at church when I go down there to help video the church service, of just the idea of, you know, forsaking not the assembling yourself together. Well, right now we can't, but this is still our ability to assemble together and encourage one another. You know, there's no reason to go, no, we can't, you know, speak into each other's lives. So thank you, everybody.
Definitely. All right, so again, we're going to move into our nature and God's creation pictures, and thank you to everyone that posted. There is some really great pictures that came up this week. I mean, really good stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and we'll open this up, and you should be able to see on everybody's screen there. Before I jump into this, one thing I just want to say real quick is that, again, we've got the Vertical Central Crew Connect section on Facebook, like I talk about every week, but we are so blessed to have everybody entering in prayer requests and stuff in that area. And just remember, if that's a place you want to chat with people about prayer needs, anything in that sense, go ahead and enter it into the Connect section on Facebook. And sometimes you need to find it over on the announcement tab if it's not showing up on your direct wall. But a great place for everybody to hang out and chat. All right. So this week's challenge was all about nature and God's creation. So what we're going to do, we're not going to spend a huge amount of time on this, but we're going to go through, and Mark and I were reviewing the pictures earlier today, and just want to, first of all, we're going to actually talk about the pictures. So normally we have you guys kind of talk about, you know, why you posted the picture or why you took the picture, but this time Mark and I are going to give kind of some, I wouldn't say harsh critiques, but just on what makes your picture a great picture and things that maybe could be improved on slightly. So that's where we're going to roll from this point. So let's get started. All right. So we've got the first picture up. And that one, if that's your picture, just give a shout out. And
it's mine, Jamie's.
Jamie. I'm trying to scroll back so I can find my list of the actual pictures.
My first thought was, how many times have we driven by the mothball fleet and thought, wow, what a neat place would be able to go, but it's not a very photogenic spot.
Mm-hmm.
No, but
usually I should say yes. Yeah. This is phenomenal.
Incredible. Like, you've got the contrails in the shape of the cross. So, you know, I can't tell if this was maybe a pretty heavy crop because it's a little noisy in the picture. So the technical side of it is not important for this picture, right? It's the content of the picture that makes it special and makes it pretty incredible. The fact that you've got, you know, that mothball fleet under that corner and that quadrant of the cross, kind of in a rule of thirds, is just pretty spectacular. So good job on that capture. I'm glad you captured it when you saw it. And I like the little story that you actually you told just about how it gave, you know, blessings over the people that had served in the military before. So
I took this 9 years ago with the little, I call it my little pink camera. It's a little Canon Sure Shot.
Okay.
And I was up on Vista Point, which is across the freeway. looking out at that. So yeah, there is some cropping. I didn't have anything like Lightroom or Photoshop. It was just a JPG or JPEG. And I loved it. I mean, it was a cheap camera, but it was exactly what I needed at that time.
Yep.
No, good job.
No, it's good. That's great. Great shot. Once in a lifetime.
And I don't think Mindy is on the call here. But real quick, Mark and I were looking at this picture, and it's really interesting. She did a great job of with the exposure of this image. Again, great at showing God's creation and nature.
Love the colors. Love, one thing I really like about any of these types of pictures is when you get that layering of the mountains, right? This really nice layering, which gives some nice depth to the photo.
And actually, for me, what set this picture off was those cactus in the middle layer. They kind of just draw me in, and I look around the photo and see what's there. But it's a really nice job.
There's a lot of images tonight. One thing to be really careful of, because it's something we all do, but you can fix it, and we all know it so easily in post, is really watch your horizons, especially, and sometimes you got to cheat it a little bit. Like that one, I'm not so sure the horizon was off, but just the way the mountains fall, you get the feeling like the horizon's kind of down on the left. I think if the person would have straightened it up a little bit better, a little bit more, it could have strengthened the look.
I was just going to ask that, Mark, on that horizon. Just at the first look with the crooked horizon to me.
Yeah.
And I don't know that it is so crooked. Just when I look at the cactus on the right, it's probably pretty close to straight up. So
yeah,
it's just one of those things that gives the optical illusion of crooked horizons. We'll have some other examples of that. Okay. So this one is Vera.
Yeah.
This picture, really grabbed both Mark and I.
Thanks. It's from Australia, actually.
Okay.
The thing that makes this picture work well is, in landscape photography, and Mark is always talking about this anytime we're doing landscape workshops, is just a foreground subject. Is super, super important to create that layer in photography. And this one, you do have the foreground subject with your leaves.
Mm-hmm.
But man, my eye just kind of travels around, goes up to that pink flower, and then right around that kind of horseshoe bend on the top.
Yeah. And if there was any sort of critique, this might be an image that you could have played around with, maybe an 8x10 crop, and just lose some of that stuff that's way out. It kind of makes a circle up above, and it pulls my eye, and sometimes I get trapped and it doesn't let me come back down, where I don't know if just losing the top couple inches would strengthen that flower.
Yeah, good job and it definitely shows God's creation and new life there. So
Thanks.
I like it. All right, Bats.
This is mine.
Yes.
This was taken on a point and shoot little, like a sure shot camera, quite a few years ago. But I really liked it because it shows new life and the amazing detail of that fern frond.
This one really grabbed us when we looked at it.
Yeah.
For the first time. First of all, it's a spectacular looking picture. I mean, it's one of those that this is a wall hanger type of picture for artwork. And it really shows just how, God creates these natural shapes that are so incredible. But Mark and I were pointing out there was a couple of elements that really grabbed us in this, and it's the repeating patterns. And that's what you always look for in photography is not just the standard rules of rules of thirds, but just ways that you can get patterns to repeat. And this is one of those with that kind of curly cue.
Yeah.
And Mark, something grabbed you actually on the bamboo you were talking about.
Yeah, it's funny that, number one, it's also, anytime you talk about a strong image, diagonal lines are always your most active, your most dynamic lines. I love the diagonals, but I love the fact that you got all that detail in the bamboo. It kind of keeps me coming back to it going, I want to see more of that. Yeah, there's so many things. I love the little balls of leaves going up the leaves. I mean, you've got so many incredible elements here, shape-wise and texture-wise, that, yeah, like Steve, he nailed it. It's a wall hanger. It's a good one.
Thank you.
Really good shot. All right, this one is Don Lee. He's not on the call tonight, but this is pretty spectacular. I think you'd all agree. Mark and I use the word wall hanger. Like, anytime we go out looking for a landscape picture to shoot, we're challenging ourselves to create a wall hanger. That just means one that you're going to print big and hang on your living room wall.
Yep.
Mhm.
We strike out a lot more than we hit home runs on landscape photography. This one though is a wall hanger. Like, it's really cool. So it looks like it's probably up, Banff area up in Canada. But there's a couple elements that struck us big time, Mark, right? These leading lines that converge up to the center of the picture. And Don did a great job in this crop. It's a panoramic, like a 16:9 crop, which this shot needs. But what I love is that he didn't include too much water, right? My mistake I make a lot, and I see a lot of landscape guys do, is they'll put that be like the horizon line, that water edge, way too close to the center of the image. By bringing that down and adding more element above that, really made that picture stand out.
Yeah, you guys all understand a rule of thirds, right? When you divide
Yep.
it into thirds, if you want to emphasize the sky, put the horizon low. If you want to emphasize the foreground, put the horizon high. If you have balance and symmetry, put it in the middle. There's no set rule, but those are rules that kind of help guide what's important in the photo. I love this image. It's the place I want to be.
I was just going to say, I want to be there taking that image. The other thing that Don did a great job is controlling his highlights, which is a super hard thing to do anytime you're shooting snow. If you've ever tried to shoot in the snow or shoot a snow picture, it is really hard not to blow it out, and he actually succeeded well. So
Yep.
Hats off to Don. We got Richard Lau. Whoops. Sorry. There we go. Mouse is way too quick.
Oh, with that.
Yeah, we're just going to skip yours, Richard. You're just moving right ahead now.
Yep, there it is, Richard.
But Richard, I assume this was taken when we were together at Yosemite?
Yes. Yeah, it was.
So the one thing that grabs me first about this picture is your framing, right? I really like how you framed it in between those two trees. That's what you always want to look for, something that will draw your eye into the picture, and that does it. That's a great point. Mark, you had mentioned something about this picture about the trees earlier when we were talking.
Yeah, one of the things I really like too, I love the framing. That's what catch my eye first. I love the fact that it's not the patterns that mimic, but I love those trees in the middle, how they kind of mimic the spires of the mountain. So you have these pointy mountains in the back, and you have these pointy trees. So you're getting these layers of things. One thing I would be careful of, and I know I was there with you, we shot in the middle of the day, was one of the problems, is I kind of laughed and I went, ooh, Richard's got the same problem we have. He has a Nikon green grass. Like, we've always made a joke about Nikon just doesn't do grass well. And we're both Nikon shooters. It always puts, grass is normally in the yellow channel anyways. It looks green to us, but it's almost all yellow in the color. And it gives it this weird yellowish color to grass. And just be aware of that. That changes the mood, because you have like this warm, bright grass, and then your mountains are very blue and cold. So, it's kind of getting that balance, either figuring to warm the mountains or, and leave the grass the same, or get the grass green and balance it out with your mountains.
Cool.
And one thing just to be cautious of, Richard, is the right up. I don't know if you can see my mouse over the.
I saw. I caught me right
sky
there.
replacement in Luminar.
Yeah.
Little section that didn't
Right.
have. So just
Right.
scoot down your horizon line a little bit and you'll be fine. But overall, I like the image is pleasing to look at. Like, it makes me again want to be there. It shows God's creation. I think anytime I'm shooting in Yosemite, I feel closer to God anyway. So good job.
Thank you.
All right. I don't think Steve is on the call tonight. I didn't see him pop on, but it's Steve Reader.
No.
Another.
And I know he shoots a lot of film, he hasn't been shooting recently. So this looks like it's from his film days.
And it's one of those locations too that anytime I'm by the ocean, man, I'm happy. So it's one of those shots that I would love to be there as well.
This is one good example of straightening that horizon. That's like that first thing that my eye goes to, is that crooked horizon. We both love this.
Tim, love this picture.
Thanks.
It's really nice.
Yeah, I love that S curve coming through there. I love the bright white water. Water tends to get a lot of cyan in it when people take pictures of it, but this is definitely white, and which I think is what makes it so striking.
So the interesting thing about this picture, when Mark and I were looking at it earlier today, we both kind of jumped to the same conclusion right away, but then we backed off our conclusion. And it was like, I want to see this picture have just a little more zing or a little more pop in the color. Maybe just, I don't know if that's a contrast issue or a highlight issue, but I just want to see it just give just a little more punch. And then we're like, but you know what? I bet you that looks exactly like it looked when you were standing there. And if anybody's ever tried shooting in the redwoods, that's what it looks like.
It's dark. Yeah.
It's kind of disappointing when you get home sometimes because you're like, you see this spectacular image with your eyeballs and you're like, that stinks. Like, I've got no color. I've got no excitement. But with this white creamy water and you got the highlights in the moss, it works really well. Really, really well. So hats off to you on that picture. That's another one where I could stand there for hours just watching that water flow by. Where in Colorado? Is this in Colorado?
That's actually on a hike we did in Glacier National Park.
Okay.
It's on the way to Avalanche Lake, if you guys ever make it up there.
Looks beautiful. You make me want to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, at this point, I will go anywhere. So, like, this is Tom. Tom, you're on the call, yeah? Yeah.
Yeah, I took this in 2001 with my Yashica 35 millimeter, and then my daughter scanned it one year when she was scanning all my film photography.
Okay.
I'd never had any instruction at this point in my, at all. The reason I picked this picture is that just standing there, the first time I saw the Grand Canyon, it was just like, wow. I knew it was big, but just wow, not that big.
Yeah.
I thought it looked so much, even if with this picture, the Grand Canyon is much bigger than it shows.
So here's the cool thing. Tom mentioned you can't tell how big it is. But what makes this picture so incredible, Mark and I first looked at it like, yeah, it's a picture of the Grand Canyon. And then your eye goes to the brightest spot, which is where? The white down the right-hand corner. In that rule of 13. And then you see the people. And that gives
scale, man.
So if you ever want a landscape picture to show scale, put a person in it. And my wife will laugh at me because I used to take landscape pictures and I would wait for hours until there'd be nobody in my picture. Like, get out of my picture. I hated it when someone was in it. But it's because of the gentleman that's going to be speaking in a few minutes that I completely changed my idea of landscape. And now if someone's not in my picture, I tell them to get in the landscape. So makes a big difference. But Tom, what I love about this is my eye first glances all the way up to the top. Then it hits these people. And then I start traveling up this part of the canyon. Like, ooh, what is that? And then I realized, wait a second, this trail is not at the bottom. That's still up at the top. You got all this below.
It's still further down. We're not seeing the floor.
Yeah, the Grand Canyon is an amazing place to take pictures. So good job. I love how you capture with the people in there.
Yep.
All right. Focus on light.
Blend. This is just an amazing sunset, sunrise. Is this in your backyard again, Glenn?
Not this time.
Okay, because your backyard has that nice slope on that last photo, huh?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I just love what makes it for me is that glow coming out through those trees below. Like it's just, I don't know, almost like fire back there. But there's so many things, catching those rays. My eye just keeps going in circles. I keep going to that bright spot in those trees. It pushes me out on the rays and it just pulls me back in. So
yeah, another good shot of like controlling your exposure, because anytime you're shooting into the sun, even if it's a sunset, it's really easy to blow it out. But I like it. It's another one of those spots that you can see God's glory. Just
how long ago did you shoot that?
That was just last year.
Okay, okay.
And the interesting thing to me is that's out of a moving car window.
Really?
Oh, wow.
You had a lot of
For once, I wasn't driving.
Yeah.
I hope not.
No, it's cool. All right, Anthony. I don't know if your audio is on or not. I see that you're invisible on the call, but this was at a trip that we took. Anthony was on a trip with us out to the Salt Lake Salt Flats, or out there in Utah, Wendover, Utah. And this, I believe, was a multi.
Yeah, it was a multi he shot.
And the picture just draws me in. First of all, I just love it. The Fuji colors are always fantastic, and this looks almost identical to what my eyeball saw when I was standing up there.
Yeah.
But what makes this photo work is these tire tracks.
Yeah. The thing we hated.
The thing that's like bugged me to pieces when we were out there, like, there's all these people have ruined my perfect image. Just like Mark said, it made the picture.
Yeah. Your eye starts raking across that landscape, and then you hit that one set of tire tracks that just takes your eye right to that far mountain.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I love the fact that the one mountain's, very dark, and the other one's, all lit up. There's just, again, layers of dimension there.
And I think this was right before I took Anthony on a 135-mile-an-hour drive out there. That was a highlight of his day, I'll tell you that. It was fun. Good job.
If you work for a rental car agency, do not give us a car with a Hemi.
No.
We're going to the Salt Flats.
Bad choice. But Terry, wall hanger. That's all we need to say.
Yep.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Is that on your wall, Terry?
No.
Okay.
Why not?
Okay.
Amazing. The clouds are amazing, and that waterfall, you hit it just right. The light, I said layers a minute ago. You got so many layers of light.
So before you print it, I'll give you one tip on this picture that I would do. And I would, in Lightroom or Photoshop, just take your black slider. There's a white and a black slider. Bring it to the left slightly to add a little bit black or the contrast to give a little more dimension in those rocks, because it looks like you brought up the shadows, especially in the forefront of the picture.
Mm-hmm.
Do that and you'll make it very 3D. I mean, it's almost 3D as it is, but you do that and you've got definite winner. Like Mark said, that waterfall with that water spray and the clouds, you hit it on a perfect cloud day. Really nice picture.
Beautiful.
Frame it, put it on the wall.
Okay. Thank you.
CG Pro Prints, they've got a good special right now. Annette, I want to go there.
Yeah, I do too. I want to be there now.
Already there.
Yeah,
And
Carol.
Carol's going, I'm there.
Is this on Maui?
It is, yeah. That's my favorite island, Big Beach. And it just, my favorite quiet time with God is just in Maui. I don't know, there's just, water is obviously a big thing, but there's just something so peaceful about, being on the beach in Maui. So it's my favorite God spot.
So this picture could totally be terrible, and I don't care because I want to go there, right? It just but the best part is, Annette, it's not a total terrible picture. It's a great picture. I'm drawn to those palm trees. I love the exposure of it, right? Again, another one where the sun is blown out, but the sun is blown out if you were to look at it. I mean, that's what it looks like. It's like your eyes can't focus on the sunspots. So it's really cool. Good job on the shadows and the highlights. So I'm ready to go. Judy.
You.
And anytime you see stars in the heavens like that, definitely gets you. I think you had mentioned in your comments, it's about as closest to heaven that you've ever felt.
Yeah. That was pretty cool.
Where was this?
This was at Loon Lake.
Yes, okay.
Last year.
Yeah.
And something I had never, ever done before. I went with a group of Sacramento photogs, I think.
I remember
You
when
And-
it went,
of capturing it.
what an experience.
Isn't it? Like if you guys
Great.
have ever had the opportunity to go out and do any astrophotography, highly recommend it. And you have to pick a day where the moon isn't up and it's really clear and no light. But Julia, the one thing that Mark and I, that this picture particularly grabbed us, and you did an excellent job, is your shutter captured enough light to show all of the stars, even the little stars. Perfect on the Milky Way. But you didn't keep it open too long that the stars started to trail. So that just means they start to show a line rather than a dot.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And it's super easy to do because you're always like, I want it brighter, I want more light to see more stars, but it starts getting distracting. So perfect timing on your exposure. Love
Thank you.
the light pollution reflection on the lake that's coming from Sacramento.
Right. Yeah.
It's good, really good.
I would watch
Thank
your
you.
horizon. It looks like your horizon could be straightened a little bit.
It does look a little off. Yeah.
And so that's something that you will never get right doing astrophotography right out of the camera, because you can't see the horizon when you're taking the picture.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things when you get the picture back home and are editing it, just watch for that. Open up your grid within Lightroom or Photoshop and just make sure the horizon is on the grid. But otherwise, man, for your first trip out doing astro, it's pretty spectacular.
And here's a question Steve and I talked about today is you might want to go out and do astrophotography very soon. You guys been watching the SpaceX trail of 40 satellites linked together? And how many did you say are up right now? There's
200 up right now.
And he plans on 900.
9,000. And
oh my gosh.
They
high-speed internet all over the world.
Basically what he's doing is creating wireless internet for the world. Elon Musk is. But the problem is that he's looking for 9,000 low-level satellites, and these things are all flying in patterns. And so they're causing, like if you're going to do this picture and you've got a couple hundred satellites coming across.
Oh, right.
Yeah, and they're in trains, like 40 in a train.
Yeah.
Something that they announced this week was that they were going to install panels on the bottom side to help with the reflection.
Huh.
Oh, good.
So
moving
forward.
Cool.
Oh, wow.
Jim, stellar.
Yeah, it's fantastic, Jim.
Is this up in Yellowstone or?
It is, yes. This is Yellowstone. It's off the Firehole River, not too far from Grand Prismatic. We were out there in the winter. This was a very cold February morning. I think it was minus 10, 15 degrees. It was pretty brutal. And I chose this picture because, in spite of the harsh conditions and the environment, life goes on, and God's created this great tapestry of wildlife and plants that survive in defiance of, what you would normally think is, very inhospitable conditions, and yet life flourishes.
Yeah, it's a killer shot, right? And you did a great job again. We talked about this a couple times, but just your highlights not blown out. It's super hard to do, especially if it's cold and then snow and you've got a lot of water and gray as well. Good job. What's intriguing me, and Mark actually pointed this out, I didn't see it at first, but it's this up in the left-hand corner, which looks like maybe a mountain, something back here, trees. Like, I want to know what's back there. I mean, that's just, it's one of those picture intrigue, like, what's going on? What could I see? And it's not a bad thing. I just, my curious side wants to see it. But great job. Love the picture. This is Gwendolyn. I don't think she's on the call.
I don't know if she's on. She's a photographer friend that I invited to join the group. And I think she put 2 pictures up, this one and the white rose.
Yeah, and so I picked this one between the 2 for tonight. So.
Yeah.
Right before that peak, the top of the peak, there's a flat spot. That's as far as I've ever made it to the top of Mount Shasta before I got altitude sickness. So this is Mount Shasta. I see this mountain every day. What a great shot.
Well, that's a whole mountain more than I've made it up. So.
Yeah, me too.
I love the shot. Lynn.
Lynn.
Again, the whole thing with scale with people in it. It's awesome. Because I can't tell how big those rocks are, but you put the people in it. Suddenly I can see that. Where is this?
That's right outside of Brookings, Oregon. We left in the morning on our road trip, and it was so foggy that I missed the park that I wanted to see. They had a lot of large rocks, and so this was the first set of rock groupings that we came upon. And the fog was just clearing, and I didn't really know how to edit it because of the fog. And I tried it in Aurora, and I didn't like it. I thought it looked fake. And then I tried it in Luminar, and I thought it looked fake. So I left it as is and thought I'd see your critique and what I could do to improve it.
If that's your as is.
Yeah.
Well, I did Lightroom. In it.
Yeah, it's really good. I actually like that it looks a little soft in the background, like the rocks and stuff. Your foreground, the grass is really sharp. But it just makes it look mysterious, right, with that fog. So
this is one you could almost crop as a pano and just remove some of the sky. Yep. I think there's a little too much sky up above the rock there. It's not hurting it in any way, but I think, that's just, if we nitpicked it a little bit, it would be, bring some of that sky down.
Yeah.
And it would look good as a pano. Just, again,
is a pano
this type of image looks great.
Because I thought I made this 16:9, but I might have picked the wrong photo when I put it in.
Yeah, this is 16:9, but you can pano it up even more. 16:9 is more movie now.
Okay.
Where a pano is normally going to be, 16 by, 6.5 or something. It's a weird ratio.
6.3.
Okay. So you're saying just bring that sky down.
Yeah.
And, okay. All right. Thank you.
Right. Good shot.
Great shot. Yeah.
Carol, another stellar Hawaii image.
Thank you.
Is that your front yard?
No. This is actually way on the other side of the island. This is on the North Shore on the island of Oahu. And I was practicing using my ND filters, and it was the first time I ever tried using my 10 stop because it was still kind of it wasn't dark enough to use the 6. So I thought, let's try the 10 stop. And I was happy to see how the ocean kind of looks fluffy like clouds because of using the 10 stop filter.
Yeah. So the water was really choppy that day and blowing a little bit.
Yeah, there was movement. North Shore is always kind of like that. It's much more rough out that way. That's where all the surfers like to go. Yeah. But I was able to get close enough to the water, and that's why I could get, and I got down real low, as you can tell. But yeah, it was before it came up and got scary. I was able to get close to the water, where I was able to get a pretty cool shot.
Yeah, I think it's super cool. Just that anytime, I just love the creamy type of water stuff. So really good, really, really good shot. That's another one where I want to be on that beach without any footsteps. It's like perfect. All right, and then our last image for tonight was Christine with the tree stump here.
I don't know if she's on either.
I think she's on.
I don't think she is.
Yeah, it's an interesting tree. It just grabs my attention. It's funny. It almost looks like something that's a dog or something animal eating on the tree, open mouth.
Yeah.
It kind of just, it makes me, like, I always like to think of a story whenever I look at a picture, and I'm like, what happened to that tree? Did it just die? Did it get hit by lightning? You got like the bark is on the ground. So it just makes me wonder, what went on there, and you've got new growth coming in from the side. So the picture technically, I don't know if it's like a wow picture, but it's a very interesting picture. I'll put that in. And that's the thing about a lot of times landscape pictures and photography in general. Like as photographers, we always want to go out and try to get the wow picture. But the pictures that mean the most to us most of the time are not necessarily a wow picture. It's the one that has personal meaning and a story behind it. So take pictures of everything. That's the important thing. It doesn't matter if it's going to wow anybody else. If it's important to you, take the picture. So,
yep.
Awesome. Good job. this week, guys. That definitely, I'll give you a big round of applause. That was awesome. Great job.
Appreciate the feedback.
You bet.
Yeah, me too.
You know, we want to make sure that if we're doing these kind of critiques, you know, that it's honest enough, but also encouraging to you guys as well. I think you guys are all, I've seen big growth in people that, you know, from this group that we've shot with over the years.
Mm-hmm.
You guys are definitely improving every time I see photography from you. So it's always exciting to see. All right. You know, we are super blessed tonight. We have our guest speaker, Sasha Levo, Sasha Leo. Oh, Mark, help me out. Sasha.
Не могу, нога не пускает. Так мне вот, если нужно сюда что-то, я подошла, взяла и ушла.
Today, we want to introduce you to Sasha Leahovcenco. On today's episode, we want to introduce you to humanitarian photographer Sasha Leahova. On today's episode, meet photographer Sasha Leahovcenco. On today's episode, we want to introduce you to humanitarian photographer Sasha Leahovcenco. Leo DiCaprio. Sasha Luva.
So we did a Panoptic Chopstick show one time featuring Sasha, and Mark and I butchered Sasha's name so bad that we actually made a video about us butchering it. So it was pretty funny. So when he came on, we were talking before everybody got here tonight, and I told him we were going to do that, just a little thing about the video showing that we always butcher his name. He's like, dude, you just want to do that because you still don't know how to pronounce my name. And you know what? He's 100% right. So I'm just going to call Sasha. That's all you're going to know is he's just Sasha, right? But we are super privileged to have him with us tonight. He's a good friend of mine, for 3 years, and the best part about Sasha, he is one of the most incredible photographers. I have changed my whole philosophy of photography because of some of the stuff that he's taught me.
Mm-hmm.
But beyond being one of the best humanitarian photographers out there, beyond being rated as one of the top 15 wedding photographers out there, he's just an incredible person and has a fantastic story. I think you're going to really appreciate what he has to share with us tonight. So definitely thank you guys for being here, and thank you, Sasha, for joining us tonight, and I want to turn it over to you.
Well, thank you for butchering my name, so have a good night. Well, first of all, I want to hear how did you change your philosophy of photography?
Because, and my wife will attest to this, that again, it's the whole thing about people in my picture, not in my picture, or people would always ruin my picture. So yeah, like get out of the way, right? And I still remember one picture that you took of a wedding couple in San Francisco, and it was they were sitting in the bus stop, which would have been my picture. Like, I love that, but you have a picture of them sitting in the bus stop when a kid on a BMX bike came by doing a wheelie in front of them, and you captured that moment. And the guy doing the wheelie didn't do that, you know, because he knew you were shooting a picture. He did it just because he was doing a wheelie by. And that made that picture so incredible because it added a sense of realism. It added real life drama, all the things that you look for in a picture. It was there. And from that point on, Mark and I, every time we're shooting, like, oh, that was Sasha moment. Oh, do it. It's a Sasha moment. My wife, if we're shooting together, she's like, take the picture now, Sasha. Take the picture now, Sasha. So like,
yeah, we were shooting a ballerina. We were shooting a ballerina in Chinatown, and Steve said, Mark, get the camera rolling. This is my Sasha moment. The old guy was coming down, opening the door right next to the ballerina, and Steve just kept going, click, 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 click. Ends up the guy was how old? He was 102 or something.
102.
He stopped and talked to us, but what a great moment that was. Where normally we would have said, let's let this guy go by first. But Steve kept going, no, this is the Sasha moment.
Pretty much mess up your picture as much as you can, and voila.
Yes, exactly.
The philosophy. But I don't know. Where should I start? You tell me, guys. I mean, I'd love to.
You know what I'd love? I would love if you would just start by telling your story briefly, right? where you came from, where you are.
Okay, was born and grew up in the small country of Moldova. It's Eastern Europe. Nothing good about that country. It's 3 million of us, the poorest, the most corrupt country in the Europe. Still, to this day, moved to US when I was 19. So that would be 12 years ago, which crazy time flies. So I ended up that's the only way I could come here is to study for university. I got a student visa, came here, ended up out of all places in Fresno because I was watching. How I learned my English was the show, if you guys maybe remember, not OC, right? And I thought, okay, ocean, beach and beautiful girls. And I ended up in Fresno. I'm like, okay, that's not what I signed up for. So, but sticked around for 4 years. I got my education, and then through the process of applying for the green card, and I actually got a green card literally half a year before planning to fly back because it was end of 2011. The whole economy was, nobody was hiring, especially internationals. So it's literally I got to move for sure. That I ended up with a permanent residency, stayed, and then throughout the college, I couldn't find a job. So after 1 year, I think I was working in some administration office, and then the only job was available was videographer and photographer, which I couldn't do any. But my brother-in-law was a photographer. So I'm like, well, I knew a couple of things. So I grabbed the camera, took pictures of some concert, and sent the pictures to him. And he added the crap out of them because they were horrible. I come to the interview, show this picture, and like, oh yeah, that's not bad. Here's the camera. And for the next 2 months, I was on YouTube looking through the tutorials how to use this DSLR, what's f-stop and ISO, et cetera, et cetera. And my brother-in-law was helping me in between. So through the process, started shooting for the school paper and some sports and anything, whatever was available. And my brother-in-law was a wedding photographer at the moment. So he had a couple of clients here in the US. He flew, I was helping with him. And then meanwhile, he was very well connected in the wedding photography industry here in California, since he was doing the websites for the photographers. So I ended up, shooting for probably one of the best photographers in the wedding industry, Ben Chrisman, Fer Juaristi. I mean, once again, this is probably the people you would hear about 10 years ago. Right now, they're not, I don't think that famous, but at that point, one definitely was one of the top in the world. So I was following, luckily, the best guys. And that's where that concept came from, whereby I knew nothing about wedding photography, but one thing I really enjoyed out of photography in general was telling the story. Because photography for me was not really interesting, but telling the story in the photography was okay, that's something I can connect to. So for me, wedding photography was not even, when it started, was like, okay, let's get pictures of the couple, beautiful moments, beautiful life. For me, it's like, how can I get that moment which nobody saw, but I saw, and the couple gonna remember? And my whole philosophy was from A to Z wasn't a set of beautiful images, it's a story. And I really hope I'll capture those moments which they're gonna know about, but nobody else saw. And that's, I think, what helped me to kind of create my own style of photography, in a sense, at least in the wedding industry, whereby I was not aiming for the best flight, I was not aiming for the best composition, I was not aiming maybe for the most gorgeous sunset. I was just aiming for the most raw emotion and moment I can possibly get from the wedding. And through the wedding, it took me to the different path, which was a movement called Hell Portrait. And if you guys know, a good friend of mine, Jeremy Cowart, we met probably 10 years ago for the first time. And he started a beautiful movement called Hell Portrait, in a sense that the whole idea is to take a picture of someone who never had a picture taken or could never afford it, print it and give it to them. And it was usually during the Easter. And it was right before Christmas. So I did an event in Fresno and completely wrecked me. I did with this small church in a very poor neighborhood, and we would get all these families who literally never had a picture taken because out of finances or no availability as far as camera. And it was just beautiful moment to see those people reconnect over a simple image. And I started doing this project literally all over the world, Africa, Northern Russia, Haiti. That's kind of was my idea. Like, okay, I think I have a talent or I have a skill. So it's definitely, and once again, being a Christian for me was necessary to figure out, okay, that's not just my job, not just my income, but also my influence. So how can I use this camera, which I have in my hand, and the skill to do something good for people around me? And that was one of the venues where I started doing this project, whereby simple, a picture. I'll take a beautiful image, I'll print it and give it to you on the spot. And I've been doing those projects for, I don't know, 4 or 5 years probably at that point. And it led me to something different whereby I figure, okay, not only I can just give pictures, which is great, but also I can tell stories of someone who probably could never be able to tell their story, or someone or some cause which nobody really covers, then tell that story and help that cause. So I started doing things in Haiti right after the earthquake. So we did a story of a couple of orphanages and just raised money for them through the images. I went to Philippines. If you guys remember, there was a catastrophe about 5, 6 years ago, Typhoon Yolanda, which probably wiped about 7,000 to 8,000 people. Also, we did 3 of us 2 weeks after the typhoon with absolutely no connection, literally one pastor. And we went to the craziest part where it happened. Literally, I remember coming in, dead bodies still. There was mass graves which were not even covered, thousands of dead bodies. And just did all of that and just came back. Did a couple of events, raised gladly tens of thousands of dollars, rebuild the churches, rebuild the buildings, help someone put their business together. So in a sense, it became for me more of how can I do something good through my photography, not just take beautiful pictures. And those are emotional pictures. It's like you can go to those wrecked places and take absolutely crazy pictures. But in the end of the day, it's like, yes, I can show my photography, but in the end of the day, it's not going to do anything unless I actually do something with those images or ask or, put my money first to help those people. So that's kind of been, and in a sense, in the last 5 years, I switched from full-time photographer to I started a couple of businesses, which in a sense helps me do this humanitarian projects more and not really rely on my, what used to be my full income, which is wedding photography, but specifically focus on humanitarian stuff, whereby I don't do photography full time, but when something along those lines, as far as humanitarian stuff comes up, I grab my camera, I do the project, I put together a team, and then we'll fundraise for specific cause. And the last was in my home country. We started the project literally a couple of months ago. My dad came across this, and once again, if you don't know anything about Moldova, very small country between Romania and Ukraine, 3.5 million people, size of what it would be state of Maryland. Yeah, probably like that, super small. But obviously post-Soviet Union country, very, very corrupt. Average salary is about $150. And we came across this village. My dad came across this village whereby there was absolutely no care of the elderly. And this is one thing I actually, probably out of 10 years I've been doing humanitarian stuff, I never kind of crossed my mind. We always care for the orphans, we always care for the kids. But elderly, at least for me, was never on the radar. And in this case, it was just so absolutely devastating. You would have people who are blind, who cannot walk, and their pension about $60. And they live in the condition where, like, let's say winter is probably would get minus 15, sometimes. And you don't even have money to provide as far as just to keep your house warm. We're not talking even about the food. So we flew in. I brought a good friend of mine who's a great videographer. We document the whole situation and photograph the stuff and just put together a GoFundMe campaign. And so far, I think we raised about $70,000. And the whole idea right now, we started pretty much we're gonna build an elderly care facility, which we started. We bought the land. We started, putting the foundation, but with the COVID-19 stuff, Moldova is locked down even worse than US. So there's absolutely nothing allowed to do. So far, for the last month, we've just been taking care of the people there, and I'll show you some pictures. How much time do I have, Steve?
Keep going.
Keep going? Okay. Okay, let me see. How do I share? Boom. Okay. You guys see my screen?
Yep.
Beautiful. So this is the video. It's like 2.5 minutes. This is what we did. Let me know if audio is loud enough.
We're here in the northern part of Moldova, where there are a lot of elderly people who are abandoned. They don't have any family. They don't have any children who can take care of them, and government doesn't take care of them either. In some cases, their pensions less than $100 a month. We got here and just went from house to house, see how we can help.
Сколько лет вы мучаетесь с теми ногами?
Более за 7 лет. Безжизненные раны все.
Так вы ходите и двери открывают, да?
Да. А ходить уже не могу. Нога не пускает. А так мне вот, если нужно сюда что-то, я подошла, взяла и ушла. Такие боли. Что? Грех это думать. Думаю, сейчас. Это с балкона я брошусь, и все.
They don't even have money to keep their house warm. We're not even talking about food or medical attention. Most of them don't have access to shower, running water. They're lonely. And some of them are crippled, some of them are blind. So they're stuck by themselves literally weeks in a row with absolutely no attention from outside world. So we came up with an idea to build a care facility where some of the elderly can choose to stay through the cold winter months. And for those who need constant care, this will be their home. We found a piece of land, and this particular land is very convenient since there is actually a medical hospital right across the street. The facility would accommodate anywhere from 20 to 30 people. They would be under the supervision of social workers and will be fully taken care of day and night. And just have someone to talk to, because all of them are lonely. We hope to start in the next month and finish it by the end of 2020. So if you'd like to help, let us know and let's make it happen.
Okay, so with current condition, I don't think we're gonna finish by end of 2020, but hopefully, hopefully in the next 10 or 12 months, we'll get it done. So this is kind of things I've tried to do for the last 5 years, whereby just not only pictures, but something sustainable, something solid, which I can tell I can make a small difference with those photos. But the whole idea still comes together. Like as a photographer, it's hard to describe the real story without actually trying your best at the core. And this is, I think, what's been driving me also is like, I don't want to just take pictures. I want to make sure that those pictures speak louder than anything else. And unfortunately, they won't unless I do my best as a photographer and strive to be the best as a photographer. Because the attention span nowadays, especially on social media, is so small, right? You can put a mind-blowing pictures and you get 20 likes. Especially when it comes to something when someone is asking you for money, nobody actually cares about it. So in my mind was like, okay, in order for these type of projects to survive, I want to make sure not only the cause is huge, but the quality of the images is huge. So, and it's been constant process for me. It's like, how can I improve as a photographer? Not just giving out great causes to donate or, give money to, but also how can I bring the people through the image as close as possible to that subject, to that suffering, to that, need of a person, and that's been kind of my philosophy for this. And I'll go ahead and share. I'm not sure if anybody of you saw my work before, which is totally fine because I haven't looked at it for probably 2 years myself. So no judgment there. But I'll go ahead and just show you a couple of projects I've done over the year. Can you guys see the?
Yeah, we can.
So these are once again almost, and this is another interesting thing about what I realized. Like almost every single photo which somehow put me on the map was my personal project, not a paid gig, not a campaign, and I got $1,000 for it. My favorite images still comes up to be my personal projects, which I spend money on. And yes, I got great clients, which I got to shoot all these celebrities and NBA stars and all these other people in great weddings. But in the end of the day, my favorite stories, my favorite photography would be my personal project, which I decided I'm gonna go and shoot and deliver. So this is the picture from Mongolia. This is it's not set up. There is no fog machine. It's once again as real as it gets. They were literally on the roof of their house, or whatever you call their house. It's in the mountains in far in the east of Mongolia. And these are the Mongolian eagle hunters, which they've been passing this tradition from generation to generation. So you can literally see a image of father who's a eagle hunter and his son who he's teaching. This is also another picture which I just shot in January. This is one of the guys. He is probably in his late 70s, blind, can't walk, and I'll show you a picture of what would be with this house. But this is one of those crazy examples of nobody cares of these people, and when I saw, I knew we have to do something about it. This is also once again another thing about my pictures. I cannot edit well enough. So I usually try to get the picture as close as possible from the camera. So yeah, this is
terrible. It's terrible picture, Sasha.
Thank you. But this is also Mongolia, and I actually the real colors, which looks unreal, but I had desaturated this image. So the real colors in reality were actually brighter than you see on screen. Same thing here. Like the location is just absolutely insane. This is, if you want to take one in a lifetime opportunity to go and shoot absolutely insane stuff, that would be it. And it's actually not that expensive to get there and to do this type of photography. But these are real people. They're not dressed up for us. These are their daily life. They go use their eagles to hunt, foxes to hunt, wolves to hunt, rabbits. So this is their way of hunting stuff. This is an image of reindeer herder. This is one of the still culture in northern Russia, which is very close as far as ethnicity, what we have people in Alaska, Eskimos. So these are what we call them Chukchas in northern Russia. And this was my probably hardest trip I've ever taken. The usual temperature on that trip was minus 40 degrees Fahrenheit. The worst I experienced was 69. This was a beautiful day. It was honestly 35, and we thought we were so lucky to shoot because the camera doesn't work very well in that temperature. Let me tell you that. But this was about 35, and this is where they live. And this is very interesting because it's a man and a deer. They eat deer, they work with deer, they live under the deer skin, they wear deer skin, and they, that's just a human far north. It's between Northern Pole and Arctic Circle. So it's far north. This is a picture actually also. I did a friend of mine here, actually, I shot in Sacramento. I had an idea of blowing paint all over the drums, and I had literally 3 cheap flashes. Once again, speaking of the gear doesn't matter. I don't believe in gear. I literally used 3 Chinese flashes and $20 umbrella. And this is what I got. And then through that picture, I literally probably signed 5 or 7 shoots with Yamaha and all the other brands as far as the drums. But this is, once again, just something I had in mind. I, spent $20 in paint, and then, I had to clean it up, but it was worth it. This is also a friend of mine who I found on Facebook. The guy got in a car accident and lost his leg. And later on, after the way he recovered, he started doing sports. And this is kind of where he was, skinny little guy, probably 130 pounds. And right now he doesn't look like 130 pounds, but this is another story we did. Great guy. And this was, I think, in Philadelphia we shot this. It was also one of my favorite pictures because it's just raw and real. This is a project I was telling you in Philippines, and if you can see on the bottom picture, you can see skull and all those bags of dead bodies. So you have literally thousands of dead bodies. When we got to that city, it was just probably the nastiest smell I've ever experienced in my life. This is a shot I did for a sports company of Chris Paul. I don't know what team he's playing right now. Rockets? No. Houston? But yeah, it was a great opportunity. And also nothing crazy. You just 2 flashes, LNBs, no crazy lighting here. This is another shot of the kid in the Philippines. And if you can see in behind all the black stuff is oil, which was also interesting that not a single news report at that time. We got to that place, actually it was an island in a small island in the Philippines where you have thousands of barrels of oil spilled on the island and in the water, and literally not a single newspaper or TV channel covered that story. And that black stuff you see on that whatever teddy bear, whatever it was also oil. This was also Philippines, the just destruction of what happened there. This was a picture taken in Nigeria of a guy who did a project actually through Bayside of Faith Alive, a clinic who works with HIV/AIDS patients, probably one of the biggest clinics. And this guy, 12 years ago from time we were there, so at this point probably 20 years ago, his village and HIV, if you know Nigeria, number 2 country when it comes to HIV/AIDS. So the prevalence of HIV in that country was, let's say 20 years ago, in some of the village was 40%. This guy was so scary that the village can close him up in the basement and throw him bread because they were just afraid of him. And this doctor we were working with got him out, put him on the medication, and 12 years later, the village elected him as the mayor of the village. So there's also a crazy story of this guy. But he's huge, bigger than me, and you never think that he had HIV or tuberculosis or any of those things. But just, great. Once again, picture. Maybe it's not the best, but the story behind it is beautiful. This is a picture of Ukrainian soldiers when the whole conflict between Russia and Ukraine broke down. I went there the same year, and it was literally on the combat line, and we just a lot of orphanages would close, and they would migrate the kids, and the local churches would take those kids, but there was no provision for them. So we just worked together a couple of deals with nonprofits in Germany, and they would provide humanitarian aid from the Germany to this orphanages. But we just were lucky enough to snap a couple of pictures of the soldiers. This is Vernon Davis. I think he played for 49ers right now. I think he plays for the DC, but also just great shot, which I liked a lot. Also Chris Paul and his son, Vernon Davis. This is a picture I like a lot. It was in Uganda in one of the schools we did a project with. This is was actually, I did a picture in my garage in Antelope, California, when I used to live here. A smoke machine and, some crazy ideas, and once again, ended up, sending to a couple of companies and booking shoots off of some idea, which I thought gonna be great. But once again, personal project. This is reindeer herders in northern Russia. Same, a kid. And once again, $20 umbrella and a Canon flash. This is also, did a picture somewhere in Sacramento, I don't remember, but just compilation of a couple of images, which I thought, once again, what I learned is that if you have idea, don't wait for the company to pay you for that idea, execute, and then you'll see how you can actually get the client just based on what you produced before, based on your own knowledge. I was in Uganda. This is actually a gentleman, Reggie, and he would stand on the corner of, Steven, you want to help me? What's this street?
Yeah, it was like K Street and something else down there in Sacramento, downtown.
Yeah, and the crazy story about this guy, I would when I first drove by, and he was just begging, asking for money. And I ignored him because, first of all, I don't like giving away money. Second of all, I looked in my pocket and I had a $20 bill. I'm like, I'm not giving $20. But when he walked past me, I just kind of put my head down, looked at my phone. I'm like, I was just gonna ignore you. And then when he walked past me, I just saw something's off with his face. So when he was coming back, I actually put my window down, gave him $20 and said, and when he looked at me, I'm like, holy crap. I'm like, what happened? I asked what's his name, and he said Reggie, and his voice was very, very deep. So you can tell there's some medical condition as far as, something happened with his throat. I'm like, Reggie, what's your story? He's like, oh, why would you want to know? So long story short, we ended up having a little chat. I pulled over, we had a little chat, and he told me his story that, he was he served in the military. Something happened. He was, came home and he was living in Sacramento. And then at one point he realized that he's a bad human being and he needs to die. So he poured gasoline on his head and his body and lit himself on fire. And then the helicopter picked him up, put him in the UC Davis, and they did, I'm not sure how many surgeries on him, but he survived and has an incredible story. I'll leave a couple of links. Maybe I'll send to Steven an email you can share.
Yeah, definitely.
Incredible story. And the crazy part is, once again, is like, I didn't plan it. It's kind of came to be, but one thing I realized, like, a lot of times the best stories are in front of us. And a lot of times it's uncomfortable, approaching the subject, asking the questions, especially, he's maybe smelly or dirty or it's a homeless person, but in the end of the day, that person can actually impact your life way more than you can impact his. And I thought I'll be gracious enough to give him $20. The amount of value he added to my life, I can't account, in money figures, because he's an incredible human being, and the things he share it with me, and the way literally when we put together this small video, I think it was like 2.5 or 3 minutes, it just blew up. Went to 100+ newspapers all over the world, and we ended up just hearing all this crazy stuff, because everybody all over Sacramento all of a sudden like, oh yeah, I know that guy. Like, he always comes to me, hands my kids $1 bill and tell them to listen to the parents, just all this stuff. He would go to the library and tell the kids not to look at their phones, but read books in the kindest way possible. So this guy's like a local legend, but nobody really knew who he was, because he was just a homeless person on the corner of Arden or whatever, So, but once again, if it wasn't for probably 2 minutes of me being uncomfortable and asking a couple of questions, I would never know who he is, and I would never be impacted as much as I was. And then, through that story, literally, we reconnected his whole family. We got his 60th birthday. I think we brought all of his family from 3 different states for the first time ever in 25 years. And it was literally based on something which kind of caught my attention. I'm like, okay, maybe he has something to share. And he didn't think he has something to share, but when we told his story, all of a sudden the whole world thought, oh wow, he has something to share. And this is also another beautiful part about photography, which I found out, is like, a lot of times the best subjects and the best stories are just probably 2 minutes away from you, but we're not willing to be uncomfortable for 2 minutes to realize that that's the subject I want to tell the story about. But I'll send you the guys the link. You guys watch the video. You can watch the video. There's another one of my favorite shots from Uganda. This is also one of the shots of the professional baseball player we took, I think, in Atlanta. Chipper Jones, if anybody knows baseball. This is also an NBA guy. This is just fashion blogger. Love the lighting. Ballerina. Everybody loves ballerinas. So that's kind of it. And I mean, once again, you guys, if you're interested, you can just go on my website and just look through some of the portfolio and some of the stuff. I have some stuff from Nigeria and just all over the world, where Haiti, Philippines, stuff like that. And that's a lot of talking. Sorry, guys. But if you have any questions, I'd love to answer those if they're there.
Sasha, what part of Uganda?
That's a good question. I don't know. I don't remember. It was 8 years ago, and we traveled all over, to be honest. I did a project with a nonprofit called Hope Chest, Children's Hope Chest. And they do similar stuff which Compassion International does, but specifically for Central Africa. Yeah, Central African countries. Yeah. But I wouldn't be able to name the villages or the small cities.
Okay.
Yeah.
Your story of Moldova, of going home, it's so reminiscent of the Bob Goff book, Love Does, of just the fact that you went there, you saw something, and you didn't just say, well, that's a tragedy, but you did something. You came home, and that's an amazing story.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of Bob Goff, I had a privilege meeting that guy a couple of times. He's crazy for 80-year-old, the amount of energy he has. But it just, I think we all can agree we're very selfish people. And this is, at least me personally, I'm very selfish. And that way, this type of projects actually allow me to come to my senses and what this life is all about and why God gave us, first of all, talents, finances, etc. And in the end of the day, we think we're going to help those people, but who gets helped the most is a person right here. Because when I get to help those people, in the end of the day, I get way more back. And it sounds, again, selfish, but this is kind of the best the best exchange I can possibly think of, where I'll do my best to bring the best value and to help the most people, but in the end of the day, I'll be the change person after that project. And if you guys done that before, you can probably tell the same thing. In the end of the day, the person who gets changed the most is not the elderly you build a house for, or the orphanage you had, provided, medication or medical attention, whatever it is, or the, once again, I'll send the link, you guys can check. One of the lady you saw in the Moldova video, she's 65, been a teacher all her life, and by misdiagnosed, she lost 2 of her legs, and she literally wanted to commit suicide. The only request she had for this life, she's like, all I want from this life is just, I want to walk. And it literally was, and it puts you in perspective, your life in perspective. Like, this lady at 65, all she wants, she wants proper prosthetics, which cost $6,500. That's it. And when you think those stories, like, you can't change someone's lives completely for $6,500. It sounds like a lot of money, but when you think of someone whose dream and the whole desire for the rest of her life just to walk, it puts you like in a different mindset. It's like, holy crap, first of all, I better appreciate my life because I have legs, arms, and everything else in between to do all the possible things I can. And then I have $6,500 just in case I need prosthetics. This lady been sitting there for 2 years with her husband who has stage 4 cancer, and with a daughter who lives abroad, and all the paychecks she sends to them just to sustain them. So we ended up getting her prosthetics, and I'll send you the video. But it's, once again, it's like, you get to change someone's lives completely. And it is kind of through photography, because that's where it all starts. Yeah.
Sasha, what do you find to be the biggest challenge on these projects that can be, I'm sure, very emotionally draining and whatnot? And how do you deal with that big challenge?
I think I find challenge not in the project itself. I think I get actually excited, and a lot of times I find myself that I stop caring about my business and everything in between, because this is what matters, and that's okay, I guess, for, while you do this for 3, 4, 5 days, because I literally put everything on pause, whereby I would never put my business or my things on pause. But this actually, and once again, it comes from, if we think as from a Christian perspective, I don't think I have that big of a heart. And if it wasn't for Jesus, I wouldn't do these things. So that I can't completely see that it's Jesus, not me. I'm not that nice.
Amen.
Yeah. So that's one thing. But another thing, what I find challenging is that when I put those stories up online, and literally, sorry for my French, nobody gives a crap. And we are in the US, right? Yes, there are people who struggle financially. Nobody does well financially, but we are all doing better than $90 a month, blind, crippled, can't walk, can't go to the grocery store, cannot survive during the winter, right? And then people literally ignore. I'm like, that's probably the biggest challenge I've been facing so far. And that's why I've been putting a lot of time and effort just to build my own business, whereby everything I do, I hope in the end of the day, I don't need to ask for it. I don't need to ask anyone. And it's not from ignorant perspective or like a cocky. It's like, a lot of times that's the biggest struggle. Nobody wants to help, and nobody gives a crap about the projects you think everybody should care about, or at least help in some sort of way. But then in the end of the day, it's like, who am I to tell them what they need to take care about? It's my cause. I want it, and I have a small group of people who help. And in the end of the day, kind of that's how this project is being funded and fulfilled. But yes, probably that's the biggest challenge, because I literally, unfortunately, I'm disappointed in the humanity in the end of the day. It's like, man, that sucks.
Well, if I can just say, in 3 years, 3 months, and 20 days, when I retire, God willing, I want to be you when I grow up.
Hey, Sasha, one question for you. Like, you've lived a life of influence, and you've influenced a lot of people just through the work that you've done. Who has influenced you the most out of anybody that you've come across? Like, who's been who's your life motivator? And I don't mean this in a bad way, but other than Jesus, like,
right.
Is there a person you could point to that says, man, that person really motivated me to get me where I am?
In a photography, let's put it that way. When I started photography about 10 years ago, the biggest influencers were Jeremy Coward. Not necessarily from photography. I love his photography, but he's definitely not my favorite photographer. But he influenced me with his, and I connect, through even faith aspect. He's a Christian, and he was actually showed me how to give back with the photography. That was huge for me. That's literally, I rediscovered myself as a Christian. I rediscovered myself as a photographer, and all of a sudden I had some sort of meaning with my camera in my hand, because that was just actually was fading away. I'm like, okay, I'm actually making some decent money with the photography. I'm doing good, but it just doesn't makes me happy. And then he helped me find that way of doing something good, which makes someone's lives better. In a photography sphere, huge ones was Joey Lawrence. If you guys know, he's well known by Joey L. As far as photography, he's probably one of my favorite. He's just incredible guy. Very young. We've been friends for a long time at this point, but he's just technically and lighting wise a genius. I don't think anyone comes close to what he produces, and all my inspiration from photography probably was 90% from Joey. And in the live sphere, since I moved to LA, probably the biggest influence was for me my pastor. I'm going to the church called Mosaic, and the pastor's name is Erwin McManus. He wrote a couple of interesting books. One of them is The Way of the Warrior, and then The Last Arrow. And his idea of life, I would say, is just make sure you don't leave anything at this life. Meaning, your hands should be empty. Whatever God gave you, you gotta use it, utilize it, give back, and make sure that you just don't leave anything for this life. And that's been kind of even my motivation through humanitarian projects, whereby I don't stick on one place. I don't forget what I'm called for, but I try to strive to do my best and maximize my potential. So in the end of the day, I had a conversation with a friend of mine, and literally I'm not sure how it came about, but he asked me, what do you want to be known for in this life? And this thought came, is like, I want to make sure I'm known that I gave way more than I took. And that's kind of been my motivation for the last probably 5 years. I'm like, I want to be known that not for the photography or business or any other achievements. Like, I want to make sure that when they remember my name, oh, that guy gave way more than he took. Because that's what I think Christ calls us to do.
Nice.
Awesome.
Hey, Sasha?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
If we have time, can you give us the background on your faith? How did you become a Christian? And just a quick, let us know how you became a Christian.
Yeah. I grew up in a non-Christian family in good old Soviet Union. I was born in 80s, so it was still, Moldova was part of Soviet Union. My parents were atheists. My grandparents were Orthodox Christians who would take me to the church on Easter and Christmas. That's it. So that was my religious background. And then at the age of 12, my dad became a Christian, and he would start taking me to this Baptist church, which I didn't really like. And through the time, he transitioned to another church, which was more something which I was more, at least I would understand the message. And the youth pastor was a very gracious guy. And if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have came to Christ. He actually knew who I was, knew what I was doing, and never condemned me or told me to repent. He was always saying, hey, there is just a better way to do things. And through him and through his probably example, he showed me Christ from a completely different perspective than what I heard from the very beginning when I was in the first church. Very condemning, very religious. You go into hell and that's it. And that was a completely different perspective, whereby it was just a better life, because you are missing out, and life with Jesus is better. At the age of 16, I came to Christ, and then my sister came, and then my mom came when I was 17, and then my grandparents. So it probably it took our family probably 10 years to all of us to become to come to faith. But yeah, it's been a beautiful journey. And actually, it's I'm very, not sure what would be the best word, but I'm happy that I wasn't born in a Christian family, and I got to experience what's life without Christ from A to Z. And then and my faith were actually based on the message of Jesus only and nothing else. It was not rooted in me. It was not pushed down my throat. It was actually very much, okay, I'll make a decision based on what I see and how I perceive Jesus, and I think he's what he tells me he is. So yeah, that's been my faith journey.
Awesome.
Yeah. Any other question? I don't want to take any of your time, guys. So maybe one last question, if anyone has. We're good, I guess.
We're good.
Steve, thank you for having me, guys.
Loved having you here. Thank you. Love what you're doing in life. You like we said, I mean, you truly are inspirational, and living a life of influence, I think is where we all want to be. Just like, like Chip had said, like he wants to be you. I think there's part of us, and we're not saying be you, but we want to be what you represent. Mm-hmm. Right. And that's just, that's something that I think you should be very proud of. And you're so humble, and I've always appreciated your humbleness, but just something that you should be proud of, that you have that level of influence that people want to live up, and we can see Christ through you in everything that you do. It's just awesome. So thank you for being who you are. Thank you for coming, spending some time with us tonight.
Oh yeah, thank you guys, and
a lot to us. So.
Appreciate the company, appreciate the kind words, and yeah, if you guys have any questions or I can help in any way, I can be reached out on Instagram or Facebook. If you can send me a request to the group, which you probably don't want me to be part of, but
I did. You just have to actually accept the request. Yeah. But yeah, thanks again for coming on. Definitely appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you guys once again. Let's keep in touch, and yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. You guys have a good night.
Thanks,
Bye bye.
Thank you.
Hey, Mark, can you share with us what our next challenge will be?
I can do that.
Wasn't that great, everybody?
Yeah.
Yes.
Very inspirational.
He is the real deal.
Definitely.
So here's what our next challenge is, and this was inspired by a post that Karen Schmautz went back and forth that's in part of our group with somebody. This week, we'd like to see you guys, we're actually going to make you do some work. So we've done where it's kind of been, select an image that you've made. We want you to create a creative self-portrait. So Steve did some really creative self-portraits this week. Some of them were kind of disturbing, but if you go look at Steve's Facebook page, you'll see what I mean. But get creative. If you need help, just type in creative self-portraits in Google and just be amazed at some of the crazy things people have come up with. And I think Karen had a friend or somebody had a picture of themselves looking into a mirror, an old mirror or something, and it was like somebody said, well, that's the neatest,
I like Dora.
Self-portraits I've seen. What's that?
I said I like Dora's that she did for another group.
Yeah, actually, I'm pulling that up here so we can.
Yeah, we talked about Dara's today, was that the sunset in her eyeball, you know, so what a creative self-portrait. So
This is the one that she did. You guys should be able to see it up there on the screen. So you can actually see her within her own eyeball. But yeah, super, super creative. But
Can I do that? Can I just submit that, or do I have to do
no,
it?
you have to.
Okay.
Hey, Steve.
Yeah.
I saw those pictures, very creative. Your wife and daughter are troopers.
They are, aren't they?
Absolutely.
I'm surprised they're still with me with what I put.
Yeah, I know.
But they are. But yeah, we just thought it'd be a blast to have everybody like think way outside the box. I mean, you know, this is not going, hey, I'm going to take my selfie here, right? No, this is like, let's get creative. I love what Dara did with, you know, the eyeball thing, but like if you can think of things that are just crazy and creative, it would be awesome. So that's the challenge.
It is.
Are you up to the challenge?
Challenge
Silence. Okay,
I
Carol.
have a technical question. So, okay, so can you do it with the mirrorless or DSLR? Like, how do you trigger something if you're not, you know what I mean? Or do you have to be within hands distance to do it? Like, how does this work?
Most cameras will have some kind of timer built into them, so you can just use the timer and.
Oh, timer, duh, that's right. Okay, I'm not a selfie taker, so I just wanted to know the how-to, you know?
You will be after this week. You'll be the selfie.
Okay.
Wireless remotes work well.
And what do you shoot with? What camera, Carol?
I have a Sony A7 III.
You should be able to fire it with your phone. Right, Richard dropped off.
I don't think so. Or can you?
I think you can trigger it through the Sony Play, yeah.
I think you can.
I think you can.
Okay,
But
thank
you
you.
can also put it on a delay timer if you
Yeah.
can't figure that out.
I always just set mine to take like 5 photos, and I click it, and then I run in front of it, and it, you know, the first one's usually me going, you know, partway into the picture, and you can kind of settle down and takes a few. And
Gotcha. Okay. So we have options. I guess, yeah, thank you.
You do.
I wanted to, I was
Now
getting
you got
stuck on
to
how do I
create.
do this?
Yep.
All right. Well, another great evening together. It was a little bit longer than some of our meetings, but I think it was definitely worth our time. Appreciate you staying here till the end. And I'll put, when Sasha sends me all the links that he was talking about, I'll go ahead and post them in the group. But do go to his website and take a look at his work. It is just stellar. And when you actually see, he's got these videos about that guy Reggie, like you realize what kind of person Sasha is deep down. Like it's incredible stuff. He actually got Reggie to throw out the first pitch on a Giants game. I mean, that's how, like, this guy went from standing on the street begging to being there with the mayor of San Francisco and the president of the Giants throwing, you know, first pitch. So just incredible stuff, but it's awesome. So Chip, would you mind praying us out tonight? There you are. Oh.
Oh, he's muted.
Oh, okay. Hey, Mark, can you pray us out?
Yeah, I can definitely do that. Father God, we thank you for our time tonight. Thank you so much for Sasha and his life of influence. And gosh, what an encouragement tonight. Boy, that's something I'm going to think about all week is, you know, leaving more than we've taken, Father. And the fact that he credited you, what an amazing thing. So God, we're just thankful for this group. We're thankful for our time. We're thankful tonight that we have the opportunity just to, you know, build one another up and spend an hour, a couple hours here of just looking at your creation, your beauty, seeing how you're working around the world. Father, I just ask now as we go our separate ways that this week, everything we do and say will be a chance to bring glory to you. And we ask all this in Christ's name. Amen.
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 Everybody have a fantastic week.
Thank you. You do the same.
Post your selfie when you get a chance. And remember the connect section if you have any prayer requests or want anything to bring up in prayer, please do.
And thanks again, Jim, for the
Yeah.
devotional.
That's awesome.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Jim.
Yeah.
You guys have a good, safe week.
You too.
You, Eddie.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye now.
Bye.
Bye.
Is that James Staton on there? Or did he drop off?
It's silent, James. It's pretty late back in.
There, okay. Yeah, I was hoping to grab him before he dropped off, so I'll send him a message. It's not late for Carol, though.
No, Carol's still got plenty of
You know,
time.
I don't know why can't I get out of this phone call? I clicked on the wrong thing and now I can't get out. I'm like, oh no.
You're so enthralled with